This is episode 124 with the happiness vampire, Dr. Brian Tan. Good morning, friends.
This is Nicole.
And I am Prax.
Welcome to the Good Mornings with Nicole and Prax show, Season 2.
Each week, we share an inspiring message or a meaningful conversation with innovators, entrepreneurs, and idealists.
To uncover the stories, lessons, and mindsets that allowed them to succeed.
Let our meaningful conversation begin.
Welcome to today's episode, where we share a meaningful conversation with Dr. Brian Tan or Doc Bry, as he is widely known. Doc Brian Tan is the owner of the Royal British Medical, Dental, and Cosmetic Care Centers in Pampanga. Doc Bry is a scholar and a cum laude graduate of the Angeles University Foundation, where he took up his pre-med and medicine courses. He later on attended the post-grad education as a scholar at the prestigious Harvard Medical School. Later on, he also attended the Harvard Business School. He is the first person I've personally met who've attended this Ivy League school.
Doc Bry is an active part of his community. We met him at the Young Entrepreneurs of Pampanga meetup. He is the president of the Philippine Medical Informatics Society and the vice president and a board of trustees member of the Philippine Academy of Aesthetic Surgery. He is also the head of the Ben Tan Foundation, a foundation his family started in memory of his father. Aside from helping people from his profession and businesses, Doc Bry enjoys sharing his personal inspirations at Doc Bry's Inspiration in Facebook page and the things that make him laugh at Doc Bry's Humor in Facebook page.
In this episode, we talk about the unusual route he took to get into Harvard School of Medicine, why he considers himself not as a businessman, but a problem solver, why he believes that if you're not going to help others when you have 100 pesos, you'll never help others when you have millions.
He explains why we should surround ourselves with people smarter than us, the reason why he equates life with time, and how we can better manage our time by ranking our priorities, and how we can flip failures by turning them into lessons.
We also talk about why he calls himself the happiness vampire and his childhood dreams prior to becoming a doctor.
Without further ado, I hope you enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Dr. Brian Tan. Good morning, Doc Bry.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, start off yung conversation natin with something light muna.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So, nakita ko recently, which nilike na natin, is yung Facebook page mo, Doc Bry's Humor.
Yes.
And it's fascinating lang kasi we've met sa YEP. It's an organization
Yeah.
for young entrepreneurs. And nag-meet tayo doon and I know you as a doctor. Tapos na nakita ko yung page niya, sabi ko, ay, may pagka-comedian din pala si Doc. Parang ganon. So, parang recent lang siya, no? January. And ang question ko lang is, what made you decide to start that? May fascination ka ba in making people laugh or maybe dream of being a comedian? Ay, curious lang ako dun sa
Okay.
page na yun.
So I have two pages. One is the Doc Bry's Inspirations. The other one is Doc Bry's Humor. So Doc Bry's Inspirations is mainly me talking to myself. I'm trying to inspire myself. If I see something, if I think of anything that inspires me, I put it on the Doc Bry's Inspirations. If I see something that funny that I want to share, I put it on Doc Bry's Humor. So that's how they started. The Doc Bry's Inspirations, mainly me talking to myself. Doc Bry's Humor is me trying to make people laugh. Yeah.
Ang ganda nung motivation nun. Di ba every time nasasabihin, if may gusto kang content or to put something out there, isa sa mga tips nila is, tingnan mo muna ano yung parang gusto mong, parang kasi minsan, if magsusulat ka or may gagawa ka ng some business idea, inisip, naka-overwhelmed to think of a lot of people, pleasing a lot of people. But when you start with yourself, dahil, gusto ko ma-inspire sarili ko, mapatawa sarili ko, parang nagiging mas madali. And, parang as a consequence ba yun? Hindi consequence, spillover. You make other people happy.
Yeah. Oo.
So start pala niya is just
I always see myself as a happiness vampire. I call myself a happiness vampire because I derive my own happiness by making others happy. So I cannot just go, like say for example, somewhere na, like I'll go to Disney World or somewhere, and by myself, I won't be happy. I can't go to those places and be happy. I would rather take someone along, and with me making them happy, I derive happiness by making others happy. So I call myself a happiness vampire because I derive my happiness from others.
ang ganda. Happiness vampire.
Magandang word,
Oo nga,
bago.
parang sabi ko
Bagong
vampire,
vocabulary.
pero happiness, parang, biglang naging friendly ang isang vampire.
Yeah.
Oo.
Because that was my my first aspiration when I was young. Like people says, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a lawyer. I wanted to become a vampire. That was my first aspiration in life, to become a vampire. I just felt, and I looked at vampires as very interesting. So, growing up, there are things that actually I brought with me. There are habits that I brought with me. Like say, for example, I only look at the mirror once a day in the mornings. I don't look at the mirror the whole day. Because basically, vampires don't see the reflections in
hindi
the
nila
mirror,
makita.
right? I don't like garlic. I don't eat garlic because vampires eat garlic. Uh-oh. I don't like the sun because vampires don't like the sun. I usually stay up late. I usually sleep 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
Late
So
na yun.
those are some of the qualities of vampires that eventually I brought along.
Do you remember your first time kung saan nakita mo or naging aware ka na sa isang vampire?
Actually, I was waiting nun when I was a kid. I was waiting, like say for example, there would be nights when I'll just stay up and then I'll say, I hope there's a vampire that comes along already that would actually turn me into a vampire. I had no sense of reality back then when I was a kid. So that was my first aspiration before.
And you were, mga anong age yung consciousness?
5, 6, 7. Yeah.
Siguro may napanood ka, Doc Bry, na ano?
Probably, yeah. I like vampire movies also up to now.
Twilight. Twilight was a
Ay, oo,
vampire
maganda
movie, di
yun.
ba?
Twilight, yeah, I like.
Oo, Twilight.
May
Right,
twist
and
daw
then
ng
pa-
love story and stuff.
Yeah.
Pero speaking of vampire, totoo, ako naman, ngayon nag-recall ako ng memory. Gusto ko maging vampire. Alam mo bakit? Maganda yung skin nila.
Yeah, and they're
Ang
so
puti-puti
cool.
nila.
And when they talk to people, actually, right, they could actually influence people. Just the way they
Charming
talk.
sila,
Charming,
di ba?
maganda.
Oo, charming
As in, pag
sila.
vampire ka, talagang
Yeah.
Dignified ka.
alta sosyedad.
Yeah.
Yun yung tawag. Okay. Very interesting yung 5-6 years old. Sige. Since nandun na rin tayo sa discussion of your early days, can you tell us something about you during your early days? Like, pure Kapampangan ka ba, Doc Bry? From Pampanga, Angeles?
My dad is not from Angeles City, so he speaks Tagalog. My mom is a Kapampangan. So we were taught Tagalog and Kapampangan at the same time, along with English. So there are times that I mix Kapampangan with Tagalog words.
And then your parents, what did they do? Engineer?
My dad's an engineer, and then he went into business. My mom is a teacher, but didn't practice. So she focused with us. when we
Hands-on
were-
mom.
Yeah.
And then your dad was the one working sa business. And then siblings, you
Siblings,
have...
yeah. So my older sister and I have a younger sister. So I'm the favorite son. There's 3 of us.
Maganda i-claim yan. I like it.
Yeah.
Walang magkokontra.
Yes. At least I'm a favorite
Son.
right?
And then, with your siblings,
Yeah.
are you close sa kanila? Ano yung relationship
Very
niyo
close.
growing
Yeah,
up?
we're all very close. Even up to now, we grew up in a house where everyone knows where the others are. Like say for example, where I'm at, they know. Like say if I'm at work, they know my schedule, they know where I'm at, things like that. So usually, if ever, for example, I'm at my mom's house visiting, I would actually tell them where I'm gonna go, things like that. I inform them. And if someone leaves the house, everyone says bye.
Oh,
Yeah.
malalaman niya at malalaman niya.
So it's not like other houses where they're gonna say, "Oh, where's your kuya?" I don't know.
Oo, kaya, ay, umalis na pala.
Yes. No, with us,
Okay.
it's different. They'll always know. Like, say, for example, if I'm gonna leave the house, I'll tell everyone, I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna go
So,
somewhere.
normal
things
sa
like
inyo
that.
na sabihin, saan kayo pupunta? Hindi
That's
na
the
kailangan
norm.
tanungin na, saan ka pupunta?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's the
Very
norm.
close nga. Alam nila yung whereabouts,
Yeah.
I think. One of the things na I think I could attest na close yung family mo, based on research naman, is on the eulogy you wrote about your dad. And doon masasabi ko na, wow, ang ganda ng story. Kasi ako, first time ko mabasa yon, and to really get to know your story as a person, not just a doctor, but kung ano yung background mo, your relationship with your family, especially with your dad and who your dad is. And towards the end, nung patapos na yan, binabasa ko, as in feel ko, maiiyak ako. Parang nakarelate ako dun sa mga sinabi mo. So with that, meron lang akong mga question about it. So you described Engineer Bentan yan, as a selfless man.
yeah. Oo.
And when people asked you before, well, aside from being a vampire, eventually, you said that you wanted to be a great father and a loving husband.
That was my third aspiration in life.
Ooh, ano yung second? Second muna ako.
The second was to become gasoline pump attendant.
Tignan mo na! Can you tell us why?
Because whenever we would get gasoline and they would actually clean the windshield, they're gonna put soap and water, and when they wipe it, it's magic. It dries up. And I told myself, I wanna be like that guy who does magic every day. That's what I wanted. That was my second aspiration after being a vampire. When after a while, no vampire was coming along and no one was turning me into a vampire, I said, I need something more realistic, and that is what I wanted to be.
And yun, nakikita mo na.
Totoo.
Oh, yes.
Every
Every time
time
papagas
nag-asa
ka.
station ka.
Yeah. And when I went to the States, I tried it. It was so difficult pala. They made it look so easy. Yeah, probably from practice, but it's very difficult.
And then after nun, nag-move on ka na ba sa...
Yes. So even before I thought of being anything, any profession, I think influence of my parents, what I wanted to be is I wanted to become a really, really good father and a great husband.
Do you remember a time when you were a kid na masasabi mo, na-realize mo, my dad is a great father to me?
Usually you don't see it when you're there because you only see the discipline that they do. The only thing that they always tell us would be, you won't understand it now, you'll understand it later. Of course, at that point, you're going to say, which part won't I not understand about you? Your discipline. It's very difficult. It's hard. So, but then again, yes, eventually you're going to forget about the pain or anything, the difficulties. You're going to see the gain that you got from it. So,
And another thing that you mentioned about your dad is he loves reading. Na sinabi mo kapag if you had the chance to meet him down the line in heaven, pagmamalaki niya yung collection of books niya.
yeah, he has a lot of books. What he does also is, aside from the other books that he reads, if we're studying whatever we're gonna study, and there's three of us, right? Three siblings, he would actually read also our textbooks. And he's gonna prove to us that it's not difficult because he's not even enrolled there and he knows the subject well. We have no excuse. He knows all of the textbooks that the three of us are actually studying. So we have no excuse. So even it got to a point where we told him before that if he's gonna take the board exam, the medical board exam, he's gonna pass it for sure.
Ito yung totoong teach through action, not through words.
Papakita niya sa'yo.
Oo, hindi ka man sasabihin, mag-aral ka ng ganyan. Hindi.
Pag-aaralan niya mismo.
Pag-aaralan niya mismo.
Pag-aaralan niya and then he's gonna prove to us.
Nakaya siya.
Yes.
Do you remember siguro isang book, dahil mahilig siya, namanan niyo ba yun, Doc Bry?
Yeah, oo.
May nare-remember kang book na nirecommend ng dad mo to you when you were younger? Like, did he influence you in a way na, magre-recommend siya ng book for you to read?
None.
So it's more of, gagawin ko, and then you seeing it, gagawin ko rin.
Yeah. I actually didn't get his love for books. I'm not into printed books. I'm into either audiobooks or ebooks. I get sleepy. I become sleepy when I read books, printed books. So what I'll do is I'm going to get the ebook version or an audiobook.
This one, I have to say, natuwa rin ako dahil coming from a doctor na I'm sure you read so much books, you would prefer yung mga audiobooks or listening.
Yeah.
Which is ako rin kasi, I mean, ngayon na lang ako nag-start magbasa pero usually it's through audio.
Mas mabilis kasi. Mas mabilis
kahit
marinig. At saka,
nagdadrive ka.
nagdadrive ka.
May
Shower. Diba? Usually, nag-shower ka, nagluluto ka, nakikinig ka lang ng mga books, diba? Oo.
That is true. Any book that, of recent memory, audiobook that has most impacted your life? Or any favorite book lang na you'd recommend?
Favorite book? I give out books. They're the ones by Joshua Harris. I Kiss Dating Goodbye, Boy Meets Girl. Those are the two books that I usually give out to friends. They're about proper dating. So, technically speaking, it's not dating because he actually did kiss dating goodbye because he doesn't believe in the traditional dating. He wants people to actually get to know each other on a deeper level, lesser on the superficial.
So, if may i-recommend kang book na yun, if may taong magbabasa nun, sino yung ma-recommend mong magbasa ng mga yun?
Everyone. Actually, I give them out to everyone, that friends, things like that. Anyone. Sometimes I would post them online and then if someone says, oh, I'm looking for this book, I'm gonna buy those books and then ship it to them if they're far.
Paano mo na-discover yung book?
When I was in med school. So someone actually lent it and then I read it and then I liked it.
Tagal na rin, no?
Matagal na.
Yeah.
So matagal na yung book around.
so-
Classic na for you, considering
Multiple
that until
reprints
now.
already.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not basically my favorite book. My favorite book would actually be Charlotte's Web by E.B. White.
E.B. White.
Yes.
Elements of Style. Tama
He's
mo?
actually,
From writing.
it's the basis for the movie Babe. The one about the pig.
The pig.
Which is my favorite movie. About Babe.
Ano ulit yung title?
Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web.
Ayan, mamaya
Yung main
meron na
character
tayo.
nung...
Charlotte is the spider in the book. In the movie Babe, they focused more on Babe,
The pig.
pig. But on the book, it was more of Charlotte, who saved
Babe.
Wilbur the pig.
The pig.
Yeah.
Hindi ko alamin.
They
Meron na
just changed the
tayong...
name into Babe.
And hindi ko alam na si E.B. White na nagsulat nun.
Yeah.
Kasi lagi kong sinasabi naman si E.B. White for the book Elements of Style naman, which is about writing. Parang maliit na libro siya, then mga konting notes lang na, wag ka magsusulat ng ganito, use the, parang yung mga kama, ganito ginagamit, yung mga semicolon, ganito ginagamit. Nung bata ako, high school, nagsusulat ako for our school publication. Then parang may nag-recommend sa akin, if gusto mong gumaling magsulat, bilhin mo tong book na to, sinabi sa akin. So Elements of Style naman yun, by E.B. White.
nirecommend mo din sa akin yun eh. Doon ko lang kilala si E.B. White.
Yeah.
Okay, so balik tayo dun sa childhood days.
Yeah.
Ayan. So growing up, do you remember what type of kid were you? Like, are you the jock, the athlete, the class clown, the quiet type?
The quiet type.
Mm.
I'll be the quiet type. I'll be someone that when I was a kid, they would always say that I could actually just sit and think. I'm a very behaved child. My mom never had a problem with me when I was a kid. Yeah.
I think parehas kayo.
If
Oo,
my mom
yun yung story nila
Oo
sa
nga,
akin.
yun na yun yung sinabi mo sa akin nung
corner
tinanong
lang daw
kita.
ako eh. Yun yung sinabi
if my
nila.
mom would actually, we're talking about say 2 or 3, right? If my mom would actually leave me on a spot and say, just stay there. I'll just stay there.
Same, no?
Ikaw?
Oo, ganun din yung stories about me eh. Nasa isang corner lang ako, nag-iisip, nag-observe ng mga
Yes,
tao.
yeah.
Di ba may point pa nga nung tinanong mo sa sarili mo, yung about thinking, kasi sabi mo, mahilig akong quiet lang, pero nag-iisip. Mahilig akong nag-iisip. Tapos sinabi mo, paglaki ko kaya may magbabayad sa mga nag-iisip?
Nung bata ko? Oo, iniisip ko yan nung bata ko.
Yeah,
Meron
yeah.
kayang magbabayad na sa mga tao nag-iisip lang? Pero in reality, ganun nga rin naman yung trabaho
Yun
mo,
naman talaga
mag-isip,
yung
di ba?
trabaho mo.
Tama.
Oo,
Hindi
totoo.
na mag-isip, trabaho mo mag-isip eh.
With that, ang next question ko is, kasi currently, if you're the quiet type before, so hindi ka masyado clubs, ganyan, extracurricular,
Yeah.
correct? Because now, we met yung na-mention ko kanina sa organization,
Yes.
Young Entrepreneurs of Pampanga, and you're also a member of a lot of medical societies in the Philippines, and very active, which as a foundation, which we'll later on discuss. What made you transition into that?
Well, when you're talking about extracurricular, I was very active in extracurriculars, but they are the academic extracurriculars. Like say my pre-med was biology, so it would be president of the Biological Sciences Society, the Honor Society, the editor-in-chief of the college paper, editor-in-chief of the university paper, things like that. In med school, I was the president of the student council. So those kind of things. But as far as extracurricular, like say for example, going out, I don't. I would usually, like say even on acquaintance parties, I would go just because I'm the organizer. But after the actual program per se, if they're all gonna go out afterwards, I'm done for the day. I'm not gonna go out. It's my cue to go home.
Which goes back sa definition ko extracurricular. You're right. Extracurricular pa rin yun.
It is, yeah.
True. So that started in college.
Yes.
Nung high school, grade school,
Not that much.
do you remember, may story ka ba na
Paano siya nag-switch?
Paano siya nag-switch?
Oo.
Kung dati mas, like elementary and high school days, sige, more on quiet lang ako dito. Maybe nag-aaral sa bahay, school, and then uwi. And then eventually nung college, I'll be active in these communities. Do you remember that switch?
I think it was mainly because I felt like I had so much time in college. Because during high school, the subjects that we were learning in college, around 50 to 75% were already taught to us in high school. So it was a little bit advanced during our high school days. So during college, I had a lot of time for me. I mean, while my classmates were still studying for exams, things like that, for me, it's already things that I already knew. So from there, I had a lot of time. And I kept on thinking of things to do. And that's how it started. And usually, if I see something and I feel like I could actually contribute more, I'm going to do it. Like, say, for example, if it's going to be the college newsletter, and then if I see, say, someone writing and I think I could contribute more, I would actually do it. I'd usually volunteer.
Yun tinatawag na initiative. Hindi, maganda. Sorry. Eventually, when you got into college, yung sinabi nga, mas marami kang time, which is, I am happy. Ano yung ang tinake mo as undergrad?
My pre-med,
Biology.
Biology.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, hindi. Nasurprise lang ako dahil those taking yung medicine path or into medicine, I feel na sobrang dami lang talagang binabasa, ginagawa. And considering that ganun na yung situation, you would say na you had time. And ang question ko is, do you remember what made you decide to become a doctor?
I didn't.
So, nag-take ka lang na ano. What?
It was easy because my parents made the decision already.
Is it because your dad wanted to
My
be a
dad was a
doctor
frustrated
before?
doctor. He wanted to become a doctor, but at that point, engineering was the trend at that time. So he was actually forced by his parents, my grandparents, to become an engineer. So he thought that's the norm, that you decide for your kids. So he decided for us.
Your elder sister,
Yeah.
she's a doctor din, tama ba?
She was supposed to take up medicine, and then so after her pre-med, which is medical technology, she decided to go into and work for the Department of Health.
Okay.
So it's
So
still medical
DOH
in
pa
nature.
rin.
Yeah.
And then you and your younger sister.
We're both doctors.
Younger sister is Jean, tama
Jean,
ba? And then the
yes.
older is Anne?
Anne.
Okay.
Yes.
Nagigets ko na yung chronology niya. Okay. So it was yung dad. Yun nga yung nabasa ko, sabi mo, frustrated doctor siya. That's why siguro he's also fascinated when you were, sabi mo nga, learning it. Binabasa niya rin.
Yes.
Pwede siguro naging doctor din siya, no?
Yeah.
Paano mo masabi na frustrated doctor siya? Like, may ano ba siya
He
na pag-
passed it on. His frustration, he passed it on to us. So, whenever people ask me, do you regret? Before, maybe I did back then when we were being forced. But eventually, when we saw the vocation, because that's how we see it. Some people would call it a profession. We call it a vocation. For me, it's a vocation. That was the time when I eventually realized what my mom and my dad were saying about, you'll thank us later. Yeah.
Can you tell us the story when you realized that it wasn't a profession anymore, but a vocation that you'd be doing for your life? That you started embracing it and really parang acknowledging that this is my vocation.
I never really thought about it per se as a profession, as work. I grew up just more of like thinking that everything is more of interaction of people rather than it being how we see it, the traditional way of looking at it. What do you want to be when you grow up? Because that's how you'll make money, and then when you make money, that is how you're going to buy things. I never looked at life as such. I actually looked at life as interaction of people. For me, life is preparatory. So it is not it's not basically how, it is not the end of it. It's only a preparatory. The same as like say our school days is a preparatory for the work. For me, life is a preparatory. So I'm more intrigued with the interaction of people rather than what or how much I'm going to make out of life. And then eventually they actually said that that's basically the secret. You just keep on helping other people and money will follow. So there was no transition because I never looked at it as a profession from the start. It's always been a vocation. So even with our parents before, it was them, their dream was just for us to become doctors, that's it. It was never like you become a doctor and then afterwards you'll make a lot of money and then do this and then make an empire or something. It was never like that. It was just them seeing that when you're a doctor, well, that's their version. That's how they saw things. Like when you're a doctor, they say that it's the most basic life. And you get to help others just by being yourself. Like say, you cannot go out in the open and then say, if you're like say an architect and then they say, can you do this for us right now? An architect needs to have his drafting table, things like that. He needs a lot of tools, right? But for them, with the doctor, I mean, if there's an emergency, you can attend to it.
So after med school, that's another 4 years, tama ba? After undergrad.
Yes, 4 years and then 1 year of internship. So 5, and then usually you need to take the board. So you have like say 6 to 12 months of review. So that's plus 6 after college.
Plus 6. Can you tell us, kasi dun sa eulogy, you mentioned that there was a time you took a break, tama ba? From taking further studies because you wanted to start working and help out with the family. Because at that time, you also wanted your dad to, syempre, enjoy and take a rest.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what you did after that?
Well, okay. When you finish med school, you become a general practitioner after you take the board exam. So you have different options then, either to take up a specialty already, take up residency, training, or you could actually work as a general practitioner, or you could actually work as an emergency physician in the emergency rooms. You can be a university physician, so things like that. So at that point, I actually chose the career path of more of a break. So the break that I did then was a combination of I went to emergency medicine. So I worked in the emergency rooms. I became a university physician and an admin for the hospitals. So that is what I did.
And then after the break, which was around maybe a year or a couple of years,
Yeah, 1 to 2 years.
you
only.
took a specialization na nun,
Yes.
which
oo.
was...
I started with cosmetic surgery. So that was it. And then after that, later on, it was regenerative medicine. So and then that's how my practice started.
That's why yung shinare ni Doc Bry kanina, you have two specializations. So that's aesthetic surgery
Yes.
and regenerative
Regenerative
medicine.
medicine. Yeah.
And within the course of that, the years, eto, ako personally curious ako kasi being a person from the Philippines, syempre, third world country, and I only hear about the Ivy League schools, yung mga yan, sa mga podcasts, sa mga movies, yan, mga Harvard, ano ba, mga
Stanford, Yale, Princeton.
Parang, oh my gosh, makakapasok kaya ako dyan. And I am so honored. Natuwa ako to see and realize that you are one of the Filipinos who got the chance to study sa Harvard Medical School and then Harvard Business School. With regards to that, how did you, curious lang talaga ako, how did you apply or get into it? What made you decide na, dun ako pupunta?
Okay, so you have two options. One is to pay your way, right? So basically, you need your qualifications, and after that, you're gonna pay for the tuitions. So that's like, say, for example, for some people, if they can afford it, then go ahead, right? I took the not so usual route, which is I tried to get a scholarship. So it took me 2 or 3 years of trying before I started already when I was in last year of med school. And then, but at that time, that scholarship actually entailed you becoming more of like an influential or a game changer in your own field, because that's what they wanted. They don't want to give out a scholarship and then you're just going to keep it to yourself. They wanted someone that would be able to share it to others. So throughout that 2 to 3 year of trial for that one, I actually prepared myself. So I told myself, okay, if you want academe, if you want say being an influential in the medical field, so I tried to go through that route. And all the while, it was just me trying. There's no pressure for myself. I mean, I'm the type of person that would always aim for the stars. But wherever I'm at, I am content. I'm not the type of person who would be frustrated because I haven't reached the stars yet. Wherever I'm at, I'm always content. But I don't stop there. There's always something in me that would push myself. So, yeah. So it took me 2 to 3 years of trial, and then afterwards, in 2007 or 2008, that was the time when I got the scholarship. It was a all expenses paid U.S. government scholarship. So what they did is they chose 30 of us, and on that batch, 26 were from the US, one was from Canada, one was from Africa, one was from India, and I was the one from the Philippines. So there's only 4 of us outside the US that were selected. So after that, it was just easy for us already to be invited, because when it's the US government that gives you these scholarships, and it's easy for the Ivy League schools to give out invitations, things like that. So that's how I started. I went through the not so popular, not so known way. And then after that, it's easy, because whenever we would actually apply to different universities, it's easy for us because you have a credential that, I mean, it was a scholarship that was actually, they chose only the few of us in the whole world for that batch. So that means something for them. And from there, it was easy. That was the time when we were able to get our names into the databases of these Ivy League schools. So a lot of these ones, I was already a doctor back then, so they would be postdoctorate trainings and executive educations. So they actually tailor fit certain things, certain trainings for professionals already that are working and doesn't have a lot of time. So they try to compress the trainings as much as they can. Yeah. So, but basically that's how it started.
Within the 2 to 3 years, kasi ang galing, 30 people and then 26 from the US. Kasi yan, sa US talaga. And then ang galing na meron tayong representative from the Philippines in that batch, which is you. I'm sure maraming nag-a-apply for that scholarship, and you said it took you 2 to 3 years in the making to get it. What do you think, or what did you do para mag-stand out dun? Kasi you said that they wanted to see someone who would share it, who would pass it on.
Yeah.
How would they assess that, and how do you think you were able to say na, I will pass it on?
Well, whenever I look back, and then I also tell myself, what did I do? And the thing that I actually realize is that I don't really remember a lot of the process, because it wasn't the only thing that I was actually focused on. It was one of the things that I told myself, I'm going to prepare for this one. I'm going to try to aspire for this one. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to do other things. I think it just goes back to a certain job, occupation that I always admire in the world. Like, say, if you ask someone and ask them, what profession or what job do you usually admire the most, right? And the usual would be, they'll say, the usual, the doctorates, the engineerings. But for me, it's different. The job that I usually admire the most would be the traditional woodcutters, the ones that cut trees. The thing that I like about them is that when they wake up in the morning and then they start working, you'll hear them with their axe chopping the tree, right? So you hear their progress. They're cutting a tree. And then, when you don't hear them chopping, you look at them, they're basically seated, resting, but while they're resting, they're actually sharpening their axe. So I admire them because while when they're working, they're working. When they're resting, they're preparing. So they don't waste time. right? So like, for example, that is what I wanted to be. That's whatever I would choose. I'm going to pattern my life as such. That if I'm working, then I'm working. I'll give my time and effort to that. But when you see me not working, then I'm preparing. Simple things like, say, for example, other people, they'll relax and go to the mall, look for things to buy. When I go to the mall, I actually assess shops. I would look at the mall. I mean, if there's a new shop, I'm going to say, it's a new shop. What are they selling? What is their product? And how long will they last? And if I will tell myself, I'll give it a year, they're going to close down. After a year, if I still see them open, then I'm going to try to check and learn what made them survive for 1 year. That is how I do it. Like, say, for example, it was innate in me that I didn't really notice that. It was only pointed out by my classmates when they said, you know what, whenever we see you walking around the campus, we actually look at you, and then the thing that we notice is that it's like you're estimating how much the university cost. How many nails were used? How many bags of cement were actually done? How much was it actually? How much did it take? How long was it done? Things like that. I look at things differently. If you're at the mall looking at what to buy, I'm actually going to think of things to buy while I'm there, but I'm also observing other things in the mall. So more of on the business aspect. It was never taught to me. It came out natural that I usually do that. And I also do that with, like, say, the different business that I actually put up. I would actually think of something, a business, and then after I look at the idea, formulate it, I'm going to try to think beyond and say, if I'm the customer, if I'm the buyer, if I'm the client, what would I be looking for? I can actually separate myself, take out my being the professional or being the owner of the business and feel that I am a client. What would I be looking for? And those are the things that I usually do in the things that I set up. That's why what I do is I look at the things that have additional value. Like, say, for example, in the clinics. In the clinics, I'm going to visualize myself and sit on the sofa, on the waiting area, and what would actually make me feel good being there? What would actually make me go back to that place? If someone greets me well on my first time, then that's a plus factor. If I return to that clinic and someone remembers my name, it's a big factor. If I see that things are organized, then I would come back. While I'm waiting, I'll be observing the staff. If they're talking about things about the clinic and how they would be able to serve the patients well, then that would be a plus factor. If they're talking about what they watched on TV, on the news or anything, and they're not focused, then that would be a negative factor. So I always try to visualize myself as a patient, as the end consumer. And that always helps me. And I try to fix problems even though they're still small, so that before they get bigger, we get to solve them already. So that's basically what I do. I'm not the typical guy that would go to the mall, look for things only. I'll try how things work. I'm gonna think of how they work.
So before tayo mag-hit ng record dito sa podcast, this is what I told Doc Bry, na I'm amazed how he's able to see himself, or not just see, but actually do it like this. You're already a doctor, but you're also a businessman. And for me, parang being a doctor, ang dami lang kailangan matutunan because you're taking care of people's lives. You have to know exactly what you're doing. But at the same time, you have this space in your mind, or your curiosity, I guess, or energy to still look at it on a business standpoint. How can I serve my patients or now clients or customers, no? Ang question ko dito is, prior to starting up your own clinics, yung business, you practiced in hospitals as you shared, and then eventually you took on further studies. What was the point when, or can you tell us the time when you were thinking or maybe thought of, okay, magsa-start na ako to build a clinic on my own, to start a business. Hindi yung, again, yung pupunta ka to a hospital, ganyan, and do your practice there.
Okay, so I don't really see myself as a businessman. I see myself as a problem solver. And it's that part in me that wants to solve problems that basically became a business on how you see it, right? I'd always take care of a problem, solve it, and that's it. It just so happened that money usually follows. And that is how people would term it as a business. But I always see it as a way of solving problems. I never looked at it in a way where I'll say, I'm a practitioner and then I'm going to put up my clinic, my own business. It's not that. I would work in a hospital and then I would tell myself, I would have frustrations. Why is it that, why don't they just do it like this? Why don't they just fix this part? It's very easy to do. So it never became an actual business. What I did is I made a center that would try to address that problem. I told myself, okay, there's issues, there's problems that I actually noticed, and maybe I could actually find a way on how to solve it. And the only way for me to solve it is by putting up my own center. And that was it. I don't really look at the clinics as a business. I don't even look at the numbers. I just do what I have to do. I help. For some reason, money always follow. That's it.
Ito yung sinasabi na solve other people's problems and
Yes.
solve it like genuinely.
Yeah.
Tama. Di ba yung story din na recently narinig ko rin yun eh. Kasi recently namatay si Henry C. which is considered as the wealthiest Filipino. And may isang story na sinabi niya sa isang young guy din, very bold and brash, na eventually naging successful entrepreneur din siya. Tinanong siya ni Henry C., sabi niya, anong gusto mo, kumita ng 1,000,000 from one person or kumita ng 1,000,000 from 1,000,000 people? Sabi niya, every time iniisip mong kumita ng pera, sabi niya, or gusto mo ng 1,000,000, think about helping 1,000,000 people. Kasi mas madaling kumita ng 1,000,000 from helping 1,000,000 people. They would be so glad or so happy na magbigay ng piso as compared sa kinukuha mo yun sa iisang tao, yung 1,000,000. Dahil sabi niya, hanapin mo, sino yung tao na magbibigay sa'yo ng 1,000,000, isang tao lang. Sabi nung bata, sabi niya, sa inyo po, Mr. C, sabi niya, sa inyo kukunin yung 1,000,000. Sabi niya, mahirap kumuha ng 1,000,000 sa akin, sabi niya. So yun, naalala ko lang bigla yun na ganun din niya tinitignan yung business niya as SM na parang it's about helping yung mga taong yun, di ba? Ilang thousands of people yung ini-employ niya, di ba? Or yung mga businessman na nandun sa loob din, na binibigyan niya yung livelihood. Wala lang, naisip ko lang bigla yung story niya.
Well, there's a part about his story that I actually liked. When he was starting, he basically didn't think of it and say, I want to be the richest Filipino. He didn't think about it that way. He said, after the war, he noticed that there's a lot of Filipinos that don't have shoes. And then he said, my goal is to be able to look for a way on how to make sure that all Filipinos would have shoes. That was it. So he thought of a way on how to make shoes more affordable. And then there was a problem before of the size 6, size 7. There's no 6.5, there's no 7.5. So he said, that's a problem and I want to address that. So he addressed that problem also. So basically, he was a problem solver. He didn't really care about, I want to be the richest Filipino in, right? He didn't think about it that way. He saw that there was a need, and he tried to address that need, and he did it. And then eventually, when he was noticing that, hey, wait a minute, almost all Filipinos now are wearing shoes. What is it that they're lacking? Not all Filipinos have their own house, right? So he said, I'm going to venture into developments. I'm going to look for a way on how to make housing more affordable. Again, he wasn't thinking of, I want to make money in the real estate, right? He didn't think about it that way because his first problem was already solved. And he didn't want to stop there. He now thought of another problem that has to be solved. So he said, I'm going to go and develop. So it just so happened again that money followed because of his passion. Right?
Problem solving. Lagi, no?
Lagi.
Mm-mm.
Look for a problem and then solve it. That's it.
True.
And the money will follow.
Yes.
Kasi may natutulungan ka eh. Yun lang siya eh. Feel ko, may natutulungan.
And it goes back to the point of we are actually here to interact with other people. We're not here to make money, to become the richest, to build the biggest. We're not here for that. Because after we die, that will actually be forgotten. Right? What you do for others is what would be remembered. You can do so many things for yourself. You can buy the most expensive. You can build the biggest. People will not remember you. Right? That's how you would probably get to achieve immortality. Because if you're just going to do things for yourself, after you die, you die. You get forgotten, right? You think about all of the pharaohs, the kings in the past that we don't really care that much. It's actually the kings, the pharaohs, the leaders that actually did things for their people, their constituents that really stood out. And we would remember them up to now. And they would be the ones that have achieved immortality because they are still alive up to now. Right?
Which I think is a good way to, or a segue, good segue for our next topic naman. And I think it's the foundation, the Ben Tan
Yeah.
Tan Foundation. Can you tell us more about it? Because we've joined one of the
The outreach.
outreach we did dito sa Angeles. It was, okay siya. Sobrang daming tao, and more than madaming tao, madaming natulungan. So,
Yes.
I'll let you tell us something more about it.
Okay. The foundation is another solution to a problem. It's basically connecting people that want to help. There's a problem right now. There's a wall dividing people that want to help and people that need help. And unfortunately, the people that have a lot of means to help are not near the people that can actually be helped, right? They're usually in their ivory towers and their mansions, right? So the foundation was actually set up to become more of a conduit. We say making a difference made easy because what we do is our family funds the operating expenses of the foundation. So we're not reliant on sponsors to actually get things done. It will run on its own. But what we will do is we're going to provide an opportunity for people that want to help, and we'll make it easy for them to help. So on our website, it's thebentan.com. We have a shop there where people can actually buy a wheelchair, they can buy a shirt, they can buy food, things like that. It won't go to them. It won't be delivered to their house. It will be given to the ones that need it. So now, like say for example, if you are in a first-class community and you want to help out, you have that need, you have that wanting to basically share your blessings. But you don't have time to travel and go to a certain country that really needs it. We're making it easier. They could just, as easy as online shopping, they could actually buy things and it goes to the people that need the help. So we have shelter bags, we have wheelchairs, things like that. Yes, yeah, with deep wells, housing, yeah, feeding, things like that. And that's what we do. The reason why we actually put that up was, of course, it started out when my father migrated to heaven. So after he migrated to heaven, we missed him helping out people. He's the type of person that if he had 100 pesos only in his pocket and he sees someone that needs it, he's gonna give the 50 pesos to the other person. So they're gonna share it. So even when I was already working and then my dad retired and then he would get his pension and his allowance, we know that his money, he's always out of money. It's not because he's using it for other things. It's because he's helping out other people. Because basically he knew what it felt to need, right? So because of that, when he actually got the opportunity to help, then he was doing it. One thing that I always tell people is that if you're not gonna help someone when you have 100, then you're never gonna help someone when you have your millions. Right? Because if you can't help someone with your 100 pesos, and you're gonna say, I only have 100, I'm just gonna keep this to myself. No. I mean, you will actually never get to that point also where you're gonna get your millions. Because I believe that life is like water. It has to flow. Money has to flow. If water doesn't flow, it becomes stagnant water. It dies. It's like the Dead Sea. There's no water entering and there's no water. There's no exit, right? So it's dead. It dies. So for me, that's how I see blessings. It has to enter and it has to go out. It has to be a channel or it dies. So usually one of the prayers that I do is I say, Lord, make me a channel of blessings.
When you said, when you shared the story about the foundation, yun din yung, I think ang gandang problem na sinusolve yun. Because totoo nga naman, kung gusto mong tumulong, actually ang first question is, saan ko dadalhin? Kung may pera ka, extra money, or hindi, may money ka talaga a lot for other people. Yung first question is, sinong tutulungan ko? And syempre magre-research ka pa, yung mga foundations or charity na talagang they would give it to the people in need. And another thing is, nung pumunta ako sa website, sabi, no admin fees deducted.
Yes. Oo.
Which is, that's another big thing. Kasi minsan, sa mga non-profit, ilang percent ba talaga yung pupunta dun sa tinutulungan mo? Pero syempre, alam ko na may mga admin cost din yun. And nung nakita ko sa website, no admin fees deducted. And nung mo sinabi na, it's simply because kayo mismo as a family, that is your way of helping others.
That's our contribution.
That's your contribution talaga. And it's there to make the foundation work. And through that, nagiging stable siya. If may gustong tumulong, well and good. Additional blessing yun to people. But if right now, ito siya, nag-work pa rin siya, may natutulungan kayo.
Yes. Oo.
Ang ganda nung, I would say, model that you have in doing that. It's been 2 years nga ba, Doc Bry? And every week you have an outreach program.
Yes. Oo.
Every Saturday. Is that parang kunwari may gusto mag-volunteer, can they join you?
Yeah. On our Facebook page, what we do is we announce like 1 week prior where the next venue will be held. And then we accept volunteers that if they want to join. The good thing about it is with or without volunteers, it's going to run. So it's not going to be dependent on people that is volunteering. We actually have full-time staff that actually handle things. What we do is we do weekly, we call it a feeding and learning program because we don't just want to give food. We want to teach. We want to incorporate values. We want to teach them good morals, things like that. Because we believe that no matter what how good you are in business, if you don't have the proper values, nothing's gonna come out of it. So we usually start them young. So when we're doing the feeding, we start out with games to actually get them to their minds to be active. And after that, we either have a storytelling session where it has moral values, things like that. And after that, we feed. So that would be every Saturdays, usually every Saturdays. And then Monday to Fridays, we actually do our medical, dental, and other things. Like say, for example, on this barangay that we helped, and we found a kid who needs surgery. And those are the things that we do Monday to Friday. It We do the feeding every Saturdays, and then on the weekdays, we do the medical and the dental.
Yan, magandang opportunity for people naman na they have time or talents to volunteer, 'di ba? To help. Pwede rin 'yun.
Yes.
Dun sa nasa Facebook page.
Yeah, that's one thing. We don't want anyone to have an excuse not to help. If you don't have any resources to help, I'm sure you have time. And that is what we actually also give. Like we offer that opportunity. So you don't actually need to have resources to help others. If you want, just join us and then you could actually volunteer your time. There's really no excuse. So we're trying to take that out. And the need that we were actually solving before with the foundation was just actually that. The current big charities that you look that we know of right now, according to the different studies, usually it's just 1 to 5% of what you give that actually goes to these people that really need things. If you look at the salaries of their CEOs, that's like 95% of what you give. So that is something that we said, that's not right. And that's a problem. And we want to solve that. So we did it like that. So we said, okay, if we're going to do this, we need to do it right. We won't actually get any salaries from this. We are not going to charge. Because some people would say, well, okay, the foundation is making money. So I could actually buy a car and charge it to the foundation. Technically speaking, I'm not getting money, but you're still getting something. And that is something that we also do not want to happen to the foundation. So whatever they give, it goes directly to the person. That's why we're not saying give us $100 a month or $1,000 every 6 months. Things like that. We don't ask for something like that. We're gonna say, this is a wheelchair. This is how much it costs. If you want to give that, then you could actually buy it, and it will go to someone that will actually need it. So it's very transparent because you have the costings of each item. So that to lessen that problem that we were trying to solve from the start, because we don't want it to get to a point where sometimes there's a certain business that starts out as a mom and pop store, and then they say, full of enthusiasm, they're gonna say, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna help a lot of people, and then eventually when it became a big corporation, they forgot all about the reason why it started. And basically that's a fail-safe mechanism that we did so that it won't get to that point. From the start, we're gonna do that so it won't happen. Whoever replaces the current board of trustees, they can't do anything because that's how it starts. That's the system already that's enforced in the foundation. We're not gonna get anything. If you wanna be a board of director, then you need to have the heart to help. You're not gonna get any financial rewards. But then again, you're gonna get a lot of benefits from helping others, which I think more than what money can buy.
Okay. In terms of dun sa mga ginagawa natin every Saturday, which is good, sabi nyo, is we start with the games and then eventually have a learning session. Yung learning session through stories.
Yes.
And I think okay yun because we don't just leave them, but we nurture the people who are attending beyond just giving them happiness right now or a dole out right now. We're leaving them with something they can, sabi nyo nga, keep with them and apply eventually if mag-business man sila or how they grow into people. So with that, Ang next question ko would be, I think kasi yun is one of you sharing your knowledge to them or your values. And sa inyo naman, Doc, do you have any mentors who have guided you in this journey? We call, throughout the journey that you had, be it as a doctor or as you're doing a lot of different problem solvings or maybe when you were a kid.
I have a lot of mentors. Basically, I have what I would call the positive and the negative mentors. The negative would be the people that I'm gonna try to look at how they live their life, and I'm gonna tell myself, I'm not gonna be that guy. That would be my negative mentor. It would be a reminder to me that, okay, there's a problem with this guy. When I grow up, I don't want to be like this guy. So I'm going to think of ways on how not to be this guy. And I would have my positive mentors. They would be the type of people that I would say, I want to be like this guy. I say that I have a lot of mentors because it's not just people. It's circumstances. It's things that I see on the news. It's even nature. I mean, whatever we're doing with nature, it's a lesson by itself. It becomes a mentor by itself. So, whatever you see around you becomes a learning process, right? And if it's a learning process, whatever that situation may be, it becomes your mentor. As far as people, yes, I have certain friends that become my mentor. What I do is I want to be surrounded by people that are better than me in some aspects. Because I always believe that if you are the smartest guy in the room, then you're in the wrong room. You stop learning. So I would always go with people that I know I could actually learn things. Because at the end of the day, it's not you being in the classroom that you actually learn. It's gonna be just a preparatory. You're gonna have to learn how life works. And that is not taught inside the classroom. It's actually taught in real life. And there are so many people that actually help me along the way. So there are people that actually stand out. One of them is a very close friend. His name is Derek. So he's a foreigner that lives here. So I spend time with him. I ask him questions, things like that. And the one thing that I like about him is that whenever he doesn't know it, the topic, he's not gonna make up stories and say, well, this is how it goes, this is what it is. He's gonna say, I don't know. Or we could try to check. We're gonna look it up and then find, or we'll check and we'll learn about it. And whenever I hear someone say that, they become my mentor. Because I don't want to be with someone who's going to try to have answers to everything. Because no one really knows everything, right? Aside from Google. So, yeah, so basically, what I want is someone who would be able to tell me, you know what, I don't know. Because that's how they learn, by actually asking. It was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's Rudyard Kipling that said, his teachers were how, when, why, the different questions. Another guy, I think it's Rudyard Kipling that said that I'm actually here standing on the shoulders of giants because we learned from them. I always have this belief that about experience, where they say that experience is the best teacher. My belief is that he who learns from his own experience is a fool. But he who learns from the experience and mistakes of others is a wise man. There's so many things already in life that people in the past made mistakes already. We don't have to do the same things over and over. We just have to learn from the mistakes that they've done. And if you are actually one of these people that are blessed, you're going to find people that would actually be open to you and tell you, you know what? When I was starting in business, I thought about it as such. And I made these mistakes and eventually I learned. These are the people that I want to be with because I'm going to learn from them, from how they did things, and how they became who they are right now. So these are my mentors. These are the people that actually shaped me into who I am. And they're not just individuals, they're not people, they're experiences, they're people, anything that is surrounding us. So
In recent memory, do you have do you can you share a story maybe of a specific mentor, be it a circumstance or something you read about? Because those are mentors that you remember and you've really learned from.
there's a lot. There's so many things that were actually taught to me. And most of the time, I get to remember them by heart, and I cannot really pinpoint one thing. It's like you being asked, "What's your favorite memory in your whole life?" You won't be able to pinpoint something, but at the end of the day, you'd be able to say, "I'm happy. I'm fulfilled because of all of these things that actually happened." So, in order for me to be able to live the things that I learned, I won't remember them as, say, well, if they're going to ask me, this is what I'm going to answer. This is my first point, second point, third point. Usually, I'm going to incorporate them with my life. And that's how you would be able to use them well and remember them by reshaping how your mind works. Like, say, for example, there was this one advice that they told me: you need to be able to make your bed every day. And it's going to make a big difference. And that's one thing that I do. Usually, when I wake up in the morning, I'll fix my bed. I didn't know about it. It was actually, I think it was a TEDx talk that actually said that. I watched it, and then the intro was, in order for you to become successful, you need to fix your bed every day. I have a short attention span, and I just moved to the next video. But it's a TEDx talk, and maybe it's worth learning. And so I said, I'll just do it. I don't care whatever his reasons would be. I'll just do it. So I do it. And then one thing that I learned about it is that someone that would say, you know what, I love you. If they tell you I love you, it doesn't really mean anything. It has to be consistent, right? And they cannot say, I'm going to love you for the rest of my life if they cannot even fix their bed in the morning and be consistent about it. I think that's how you would actually look at someone and say, well, this guy said that he loves me, and I'm not sure whether he'll be consistent about it. Look at their habits. Look at how they do things. And that's how you would say, oh, well, this guy is consistent. And that's the key part. Even if it's a small thing, if they're consistent about it, then you know they'll actually be consistent about bigger things. Because if you cannot be entrusted with small things, then you cannot be entrusted with big things. And it was a discipline that was actually taught to me by that. I don't even know now who actually did that TEDx talk. I didn't watch the whole video, but I did it. So I think these are the small things that I incorporate in my life.
Speaking of habits, mahilig tayo sa habits and routines, which you just mentioned, because for me naman, I see habits and routines as processes or systems, well, I personally put in place so that I can, sinasala mo na siya eh. Ano yung gusto mong habits and routines in your life so that you don't even have to think about them. They just happen, and as they happen, parang nagsa-stack up siya into having a good day or a productive day for me. Like, I would agree, fixing the bed. As in, first thing in the morning, let's fix the bed. Kasi dalawa na kami, pero dati ako lang.
Yeah. And we even have a song for it.
Ay, oo.
Pag umaga na.
Minsan ako gising na, siya hindi pa. Okay, pag nandiyan na, Obe, let us fix the bed.
Kaya nung sinabi mo yun, parang naalala ko bigla yun. Kasi pag morning, pag nakatayo na kami parehas, may kakanta na two signal yung pag-ayos ng kama.
There's a movie called Hudson Hawk. It was about a cat burglar. I think it was Bruce Willis. It's not really a very popular movie, But one thing that I learned from it was that if they're gonna do something, if they're gonna plan a robbery, what they're gonna do is instead of them learning about the pacing, they're gonna sing a song. And that song, whenever, for example, on their first stanza, when they're done on the first stanza, it coincides with the next thing that they're gonna do. So it actually helps them do things more consistently rather than just saying, we do this and then I should do this. Because it becomes boring in the end if it's too structured. You think of something that would make it interesting and you make it consistent.
So, in terms of habits and routines, do you have any maybe in the morning upon waking up? Aside from fixing the bed, how do you usually start your first, let's say, 60, 90 minutes of your day? Do you have any habits that you stick to, or maybe later on in the day, winding down naman because you're a
Night person.
night person.
night
O
person.
yun, baka winding down, do you have those must-dos to wind down?
Must do's. Not that much. When I wake up in the morning, what I do is I wanted to incorporate prayer. But sometimes it's very difficult if you have a tight schedule and you have to prepare so many things. So what I did is I found a prayer. It's an audio prayer about these females thanking God about this morning. And what I did is I turned it into my alarm clock ringtone. And so when it wakes me up in the morning, it would be a prayer that will actually go. I don't like repetitive prayers. It becomes my daily alarm clock. So it makes me remember to pray. But while I'm listening to it, I do my own prayer. And then after that, that's when I would usually have to wake myself up, right? I'm not a coffee person. So the only way for me to be able to wake myself up is by thinking of things that are interesting. And so far, the consistent thing is that I'm going to open social media after the alarm clock and then try to look at ideas that were posted, and that gets my mind working. That would wake me up. And then that's the time when I would actually prepare, get ready, and then go to work.
And then at night, wala namang specific routine. You can easily sleep kahit na 2 a.m. na, 1 a.m. na.
Yes. I don't like wasting time. Like, say, for example, some people would say, I'm going to go to bed already and I'm going to try to sleep. For me, that's still wasted time. If it takes you 30 minutes or an hour until you get to sleep, that's 30 minutes to an hour of you wasting, right? Wasting your time. So what I will do is either, if I cannot sleep, I'm going to go to any open park, any open area, and going to walk. So it becomes a meditation. So I usually do that 5 out of 7 days in a week. And I do my walking. It also gives me an exercise. And it actually tires me so that it makes me ready to sleep. So that when I go to bed, there's no 5-second or 10-second gap. I'll just sleep. So what I'll do is I'll get ready for bed. And then I could actually go out, walk, do things. And then when I'm already sleepy, then I'll just go lay on the bed and then get knocked out. I don't like wasting time. Because imagine that, we don't really know how long we have, right? I've seen in my internship days even, we actually found people that died at the age of 35, 18, 16, 20. And these are the people that didn't actually even have an idea that that was going to be the last day of their life, right? We always have that false assurance that you're going to reach retirement, you're going to reach 80 or 90. Well, your grandfather actually reached 90. Your parents live 85. We have long life in our family, right? Some patients would ask me, Doc, thanks for actually fixing my health. And can you actually say that you could probably estimate that I'm guaranteed 10 more years? I tell them, I don't know. Maybe after you leave the clinic, you might be hit by a bus and you die. There's no assurance. So, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to maximize whatever time I have. And by me trying to maximize life, time, then I get to do more things. Some people say they talk about killing time. They'll say, "Oh, I'm gonna go shopping to kill time. I'm gonna play network games. I'm gonna play online games. I'm gonna play Candy Crush. I'm gonna play this and that." And you ask them why. They say, "Well, I'm trying to kill time." But where in fact, it's actually time that kills them. Right? So eventually, they're gonna die without them accomplishing that much. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a nerd per se because when I was growing up, I'm still a kid. So I went through a phase where during high school where I would actually play games. I would play online games, things like that. And there was a time that I realized that wait a minute. I finished this whole game and then when it was done, I shifted to another game. It was done again. There's another game that came out. I played that game. And then I realized, wait a minute. What did I actually learn from all of these games that I finished? Well, they say, well, you learn stamina. They say your mind works faster, things like that. There are so many other things that your brain will actually also learn how to think, and you'll also learn things at the same time. So that was the time when I actually stopped doing those during college days. I stopped doing that. So I'm trying to save time. I'm trying to compress because I don't know. Maybe tomorrow I'm dead already, right? I don't. I have no assurance.
Ang ganda nung sinabi ni Doc Bry about time. When you equate, somehow, not verbatim, but it's equated to life. Because life is really, if lalagyan mo siya ng currency man lang, kung paano mo nami-measure, for me, I see it as your time. Basically, that's it. Kumbaga, pera, nami-measure ko yung wealth mo dun. Pero yung buhay mo, nasa time. Kasi, 1:1 yan. Ang isang moment, kung second man yan o minute, directly yan, related yan.
Yeah.
So, speaking of time, maximizing or just making sure you're able to do the things you want to do within that time gifted to you, kung ano man yun. How do you manage your time? Because I see you as a person involved in a lot of, let's call them maybe projects. You have ongoing, a lot of problems, solving problems right now. And how do you have a system on which you would say, because there's a lot of opportunities opening up to you, I'm sure people inviting you. How do you know or delineate what is a yes opportunity and a no or maybe later opportunity? Because that is, well, I think how you would manage your time or prioritize. May way ka ba of prioritizing things?
I have a hierarchy of priorities. That is the way for you to be able to make quick decisions. Like say, for example, on, say, things like prioritization of people, you need to have already in your mind a ranking of everyone. Like say, if you're gonna put your family on the top and you're gonna have a friend on the second position, things like that. You're gonna have your best friend, you have your backup best friend, male best friend division. Yeah. So you need to have a hierarchy. Why? Because if they will actually ask you, you know what, I need your help. Let's do this. But there's another person that actually also asks you to do things for them. You don't look at the opportunities that is being given to you. You look at the hierarchy of priorities. One of the things that I learned from my mentor, Derek, that I mentioned a while ago, is that he actually has a very structured hierarchy of priorities. His family, his kids are on the number one list. There was a time when I told him, "Hey, Derek, there's an opportunity. It's actually a multi-million deal. We have to go to this certain place and then we need to close the deal." And then he told me, "It's Saturday. It's my kid's day." And I said, "Yeah, but I mean, whatever you're gonna do, you could still do it later, probably the following week." I said, "No. Why are we working? Aren't we working for our family, for our loved ones?" So you need to get your priorities straight, right? You don't look at opportunities and say, "Well, I'm going to go to this event because this is going to make me more than this." You don't look at opportunities. You look at the hierarchy of the people that you are actually with. Because I equate life with time. Time is the best invention that was actually created by God, right? If we were all immortals, immortal beings, then why do you have to do things? I can do it in, say, 1,000
Later,
years.
After.
Probably in 2,000 years, right? God invented time so that it will actually give us a deadline, right? And because we have limited time, it becomes our currency. Time now becomes life. But it's not only life, it is also equated to love. Because no matter what you give to someone, if you don't give them your time, which is something that they can never buy, then you basically only gave something that they can also buy on their own. It is only the time that we cannot buy, right? There was that movie In Time
In time.
about the time being their currency where they could actually use it as
Nasa kamay
exchange.
nila.
Yes. It was a good analogy that they actually thought of because basically that's how it is. That's how life is. The only difference is that they knew how long they're going to live, right? And we don't. But that's it. Our life and the way we love revolves around time. And it is the time that we give people, that's our way of saying, "I love you." If you give them time. At the end of the day, you don't even have to say the actual words, "I love you." If you're actually giving them your time, that's it. Right? Because my mentor said, "Give your time to your kids now. And when you're old, they're going to give their time to you." So that's how he actually looks at life. Some people would say, "I'm going to be working right now. I'm not going to be focusing on the kids yet. I'll actually get either an institution to actually get them to a boarding school and then let them stay there and then study. And then after that, when they're older, where we can interact, that's the time that I'm going to spend most of my time." That is no longer the time that they needed. That then the time that they needed was when they were growing up and they were actually looking for that. They were looking for someone to look up to. So that's how I see it. That time, life, and love are all almost synonymous to each other.
Doc Bry, you're seen as a successful person, both in your practice as a doctor, in helping other people. I mean, people who would just see or search you on the internet. Kasi usually, ganun mo naman makikita eh. Parang, wow, si Doc Bry, napaka-successful niya. Tapos, ang dami nang na-accomplish in life. And we know that comes with with success or these achievements, if we may call them achievements, are rough patches and holes along the way. And I think yun yung sinabi mo kanina, one of your mentors would be circumstance and experience.
Yes.
And with that, ang question ko is, do you have a favorite maybe bump in the road, a failure, which you think you've learned a lot and applied it later on in your life as you continue this journey?
I don't usually look at success and failure because you're talking about the superficial way of looking at life, right? People would categorize people as, oh, this is a successful person, and this is actually, well, he's a failure. And basically, that's just superficial. For me, the important thing is whether you are happy or not happy. So, when we're talking about failures, I don't really have failures. I actually have lessons in life. And if they're lessons, they're not failures because I learned from them. So, but when I learn something, I incorporate them with my life. And they no longer become a specific circumstance. They are now they just now turn into part of my whole life. They get diluted. Like they say, whenever you love someone, you need to take the good with the bad. So, I actually look at my life as a combination of the good and the bad combined. And when I combine them together, I no longer see them as good and bad. I only see them as one coin on opposite sides. It's like love and hatred being the same coin on the opposite sides. Your degree of love for one another will be the degree of hatred that you're going to have for each other. You cannot love someone that you do not know that much, and you also cannot hate that person that much because you don't know them well. The ones that we can hate the most are the ones that we could also love the most because they are the same thing. It's the same coin, different sides. Same as with your success and your failure, they're not two separate entities. They're a single coin, two sides. But I'm not going to talk about my failures because my other side is also my success, right? Some people will always say, oh, well, this guy is successful. This guy is a failure. But that depends on their own definition. Like say, for example, someone who's looking at money and they look at another person, they're going to use their own definition of success as how much does he have, right? Or what car does he drive? What things does he own? If you have, say, the intellectuals that would say, we don't care about money. What did he learn? What does he know, right? If you don't know that much, and yet you have a lot, like you inherited a lot of money, but you don't know that much because you didn't really work for that, then for an intellectual, you're a failure. So I'm no longer looking at all of these things that are actually subjective. Because when you're looking at it from the criteria of another person. And way back, I learned that there are so many people that will actually impose things in your life. And sometimes, if you fall into that trap, you're going to factor their opinion with everything that you do. And what happens is, you start living for those people, no longer for yourself. But you know what? There was a time when there was this one person that actually that was a really good friend and eventually started to not like me, right? And I was really affected at that time. And then I told myself that, well, okay, this person doesn't like me. And if I'm not gonna go out of the house anymore because this person doesn't like me, and I'm just gonna live for this person, and I'm just going to fulfill all of their criteria, what things they want me to do, then I'll start living for them. The problem is, on my deathbed, the only sure person that will actually be with me is myself. They won't even be with me, right? And why am I factoring so many things about what they want me to do and what they think I should do with my life if they're not even gonna be there? So I told myself I would rather do what I want, the things that I know are right, based on my own criteria, so that at the end of the day, when it's time for me to leave this world, and on my deathbed, I won't actually tell myself, why did you start living for these people and yet they're not even here? So that is how I actually look at life. That everything that happens, there's always a reason, right? There's no accidents. That's how I look at it. And everything is a stage, a series of lessons. And it's basically life is a controlled environment. The things that you're going to need later on in life were prepared already way back. The things that you thought of, like say you learn how to be patient with this classmate of yours that was actually kicking your chair when you were in grade school, and you learned patience because you're gonna need that later on. Life never really gets easier. It will always be more difficult, but because you're wiser and you're better, that's how you see it as, oh, well, it's easier. But it's not. It's actually harder and harder. It's like grade school will be easier than your high school, and then your high school will be easier than your college. It would be weird, right? If your college was actually easier than your grade school. That's not how the world works. And it's patterned with life. All of the experience that we're gonna be doing later on, we're already prepared prior. You always hear people say, well, you're not going to be given a trial that you won't be able to surpass. Basically, because yes, life is a controlled environment. Yeah. So anything that you would need later on, you've already learned in the past. Now, if you're going to say, well, I'm not going to move, I'm not going to do anything, I'll just actually sit here, be depressed because, say, I broke up with this person and this person was already my life. And life stopped already when this person left. So basically, you're not gonna get over this trial. You're not gonna learn this lesson that was actually being taught to you by life. You're just gonna get stuck there. You won't actually continue living. You're just gonna start decaying and dying, right? Because it was your choice. I I envy people that have a lot of time, but I also don't want to also be them. They get a lot of time to rest. But eventually, I made a decision that I'll just make myself busy because I told myself doing nothing is so tiring because you don't know when to stop, right? I would rather be busy, and when I'm done with what I have to do, I know when to stop. If you're not doing anything, that's tiring. When are you gonna stop not doing anything? Right? Eventually, it all becomes a lesson. I mean, some people will actually use that phase to actually propel them to something higher. It's no, it's not actually, you won't, it's not a failure. Like, say, for example, that wants to have a break. It's not a failure. If you will actually use it as a lesson. If you're just gonna sulk and stay there and be depressed about it, then that becomes your failure. But if turned into a lesson and say, well, during that period I learned this, this and that, you're gonna use it later on in life. Life is fair. It's not gonna give you something that you know you can't handle.
Okay.
Ganda.
Ganda nga. Kaya nga, hindi na speechless ako eh. Okay. We want to be respectful of your time, Doc Bry. Thank you so much for sharing this, your lessons, your stories, your journeys. So before we wrap up, sa rapid fire questions na
Sure.
muna tayo. And your answers don't have to be rapid fire.
Okay.
We just call them rapid fire for succession of questions siya. So, okay. So, Doc Bry, if you have a chance to go back in time, what will you tell your 30-year-old self? And if you can paint us a picture of your circumstance at that time.
My 30-year-old self, I would say it's not that difficult. I have this analogy of a person that was actually trying to go on top of a hill, which basically that happened to us. To myself also, there's this hill in Scotland called Campsies, and we go up the Kamsis usually once a year. And when you're going up the Kamsis, you cannot really see the top. And you just keep on walking, walking. And along the way, when you're really tired, you would say, I just want to give up and just go back, right? But if someone from the top already is on their way back down and tells you, you know what? It's not that far. You're already near your goal. And that would probably give me my second win and actually encourage me to go forward. And that is what I want to do to myself. I will encourage myself and say, you know what? Right now, I know you think it's difficult. It's not. It's more difficult later on. Yeah, but basically, it's not that difficult compared to the future that you're gonna. But you're gonna be wiser, so you'll be able to do it better. Yeah, but it's not easier.
Doc Bry, what's a common misconception about you?
Common misconception. I am misunderstood on some areas. Like say for example, there are things that I buy that I am misunderstood. In my eulogy to my dad, there was a part where I said I was misunderstood for buying things that would be considered luxury. But I am misunderstood because I don't buy them for myself. I buy them for the people that I love. If it's a car, then it's just that it just so happened that I'm the driver of the car, but I wanted to give comfort and luxury to the people that I love. All of the things that I have right now are not the things that I have achieved. They're not the things that I have earned. They are a representation of the trust of other people. So, if they see me with a lot of things, it's not because of what I gained in life. It's actually a representation of the amount of trust that people have given to me. The patients that I have taken care of, the ones that have entrusted their lives to me, that is a representation. The things that I have will always tell people that it's not him being a good doctor, it's actually the amount of trust that the people gave to him. And if people see me with more things that they think I should have, it's basically because I tried my best to win the trust of people. And that is how I look at the things that I have. It's just a representation of the trust of people. Same as with everyone else. Look at Henry C. All of his properties were because people trusted him. It is not because Henry C. was really good at what he was doing. There's a lot of Henry C.'s in the world that never did anything with their life. It just so happened that he did his best. He didn't look at the things that he should gain. He just tried to do what he had to do, and he earned the trust of people because it was sincere. He was doing things not to gain something, but it was to help. And that sincerity was the backbone of the trust that they actually gave him. And with that trust, you see the success that he had. It's just a representation. So,
Naalala ko yung quote that we have about money. Ito naman money. Money is a neutral indication of
Money is
the
a neutral
value
indicator of the value.
you're able to give others.
yes, exactly.
Okay. Ito. Okay, what would your life be if you didn't choose to be a doctor?
Someone told me before, you know what, you're the type of person that if you're going to be thrown into an island, if we come back in 2 years, we're gonna see a resort in the island. there are people that choose to become a fertile seed. And it's not us being genetically set. It's actually us choosing to become a fertile seed or not. Which means that if you're a fertile seed, if you're going to be thrown in the desert, you're going to still flourish and bloom. If you're going to be thrown into a soil that has a lot of rocks, if you're a fertile seed, you're still going to look for a way on how to get things done. I would be someone that chose to become resilient. And so, anything. I think I can be anything because I wanted to be that. It just so happened that my parents decided for me to become a doctor. That's why I became a doctor. Circumstances have led me into opening up different opportunities for other people to serve, which we call businesses. But that is where I am at. Wherever I would actually be thrown, I would probably bloom because it's my choice. I could also say, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to sit. And I'm just going to say, I'm just going to let life pass me by. And it's always a choice, right? So, to answer the question, maybe I'm a woodcutter, right? Maybe I am a gasoline pump attendant. But one thing that my dad told me before is that, you know what? I don't really care whatever you're going to choose, as long as you become the best. He said, if you want to become a janitor, I want you to become the best janitor. If you want to be an accountant, you'll be the best accountant. So, of course, my mom told us, so what? You heard your dad say that, right? That's why you're going to become the best doctor. So, basically, brainwashing doesn't happen overnight. It actually took years. Simple things that they've done to actually lead us to that. But I think whenever people say, do you have any regrets that you actually followed their advice? I say no. Because in the Bible, there's this one commandment that actually has a reward. It's actually if you're going to honor your parents, you're going to have a long life. So I realized that even though I didn't do what I wanted to do, what I did is I just honored my parents. Everything fell into place. So I think whatever they would have told us, as long as we honored them, it would have worked. I think that was the key. So if right now I'm a gasoline pump attendant, you're gonna have the cleanest windshield because I'm going to aim to become the best. But because of that, I'm gonna realize that I also need to have a better windshield wiper. I'm gonna say, wait a minute. I think I could get this manufactured and actually sell this to people so that I can share my invention. So I think eventually it will also get me to the point where I'm at. Medicine became a means to an end. So,
Okay. What purchase of maybe 5,000 pesos or less has most positively impacted your life in recent memory? Maybe a gadget or something small. Like for us, lagi namin sinishare ito. For the longest time, pagka pupunta tayo sa mga hotel yan, laging sarap-sarap ng tulog mo. Yung parang, ano ba naman tong kaman to? Parang ano ba to? Yung pillow na to? Di ba? Parang ang sarap. Pero pagdating mo sa bahay, syempre nakikitira ka lang sa bahay ng parents mo. Hindi ganun kaganda yung mga pillows. I mean, that's the one available. And as a kid, wala naman akong pambili talaga. And when we start having our own place, makakabili na ako ng sarili kong pillow. So, naghanap ka naman ng magandang pillow. So, we bought this pillow for only 1,000 pesos. Pero ngayon, pag natulog ako, talagang tulog ako. Ang sarap niya, walang stiff neck. Sarap ng tulog. So, yun yung I think for us, 1,000 lang siya, no? Ang isa. Yun yung investment na nagawa namin. Meron ka bang naaalala of recent memory?
I think it would be a summation of all of those things. The principle that you actually pointed at. I heard before someone say that you try to get a comfortable bed because you're gonna spend 1/3 of your life on your bed. But you also need to get a comfortable shoe because you might actually spend 2/3 of your life on that one. On all of the things that you could actually try to give yourself small comforts you could do. But the thing that would probably give me more of an impact are the things that make me happy. And if these are the things that make me happy, remember, I'm a happiness vampire. I would rather buy something for someone that would actually make me happy. Whenever I say happy, because there would be some people that would actually be listening and say, well, it's only happiness. It has to be joy. Because joy is inner, deeper. Well, I use happiness instead of the term joy. But in reality, I'm actually pertaining to joy, the inner one. It just so happened that happiness is a 3-syllable word. And I have a preference for 3-syllable words. Just like in branding. 3 syllables are usually the best ones to remember. So, I always use the word happiness in replacement for joy, but I really mean joy, the inner happiness. So, it's these things. That's why I say, you know what? The people that say money can't buy happiness obviously did not buy anything from 7-Eleven, a small sandwich, and gave it to someone. Probably this person has never given 100 pesos as a tip to someone that is actually, say, a parking attendant. And if you give 100 pesos to a parking attendant and they look at 100 pesos, you're going to see the joy and the happiness in that person. That is how I actually derive things. I'm very selfish. I'm very selfish because I actually do things to make me happy. But the way for me to be happy is by making others happy. I'm really deep down selfish. Right? Because that's my way of actually making myself happy. I just make others happy in the process.
Which reminds me of dun sa first question natin kay Doc Bry about starting the Facebook page. It reminds me na
Yes.
it's to make me remember or make me happy. But then, as a byproduct, you make other people happy. Okay, so, eto na. Last question for this before yung final. Okay, if you'd have to choose 3 board of directors for your company or your dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Jesus Christ, Buddha, probably Muhammad. And I'm just gonna watch the 3 of them make decisions. So, because eventually we're expecting that the 3 of them are actually gonna fight, right? Because all of their followers, the Christians, the Buddhists, the Muslims, they're all trying to kill each other. But if you get the 3 of them in the same room, you'll be surprised that they'll agree with one another because they were all teaching the same thing. It only came in different flavors. They were all ice cream. They were talking about ice cream being delicious. But they were just talking about 3 different flavors. And we're all trying to kill each other because we thought that his teaching is different from what the other taught. In any business, I think that the religion, the culture, they're all part of how we should run things. The people that we always see as the culture that we usually say as, oh, this culture is actually business-minded. It's because they're family-oriented. So some people would say, oh, the Jews, they're really good in business because they're family-oriented. They'll say, well, the Chinese are good in business because they're family-oriented, right? All of these things all boil down to the same thing as well, family, and how everything revolves. And when you're talking about family, it would be the culture, the religion, whatever they're actually going to be discussing. And that would be the interesting part, getting the 3 of them in the same room and then just watching them and learn from them how they do things. We'll be surprised. And that would be what I would want.
Dream board of directors yun.
Ay, oo.
Oo.
The dream team.
Dream.
The
Dream
dream
team.
Yes.
Okay. So for our final question, Doc Bry, what's your favorite breakfast food?
Breakfast. I don't eat breakfast because it will make me hungry during lunchtime. And I don't eat lunch. So I don't eat breakfast so that I won't actually get hungry during lunch. So I'll only have dinner. The reason why I don't have lunch is because since 2009, when all of the clinics started, I lacked time. So I don't like lunch breaks. So some establishments would say, "Oh, we're on the break," right? I don't like that. So even with the clinics, they will have shiftings, but the clinic will actually flow with no lunch breaks. I only eat one meal a day most of the time. And usually I would probably have 2 meals if I'll be eating with someone. Like say on a Sunday, if I'll have lunch with the family, then I would have lunch. Then I'll have dinner. But most of the time, I only eat dinner. So maybe the question there, we could actually edit it and say, what would be my favorite dinner? Anything. Anything that I would actually be given, anything that is easy for me to get. I do have my cravings. Like say, there's a particular steak that I find really delicious, say in Baguio. And I would have moods where I'm going to drive all the way to Baguio, even say at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. and get that. I drive very fast. So, because you might be wondering, what time is he going to reach there? I drive very fast because I don't like wasting time. So that would be something. I would not be picky with the food. I can eat KFC every day and not get tired of it. I could actually eat the same food over and over without getting tired. But I do have my momentary cravings. But when I do get those cravings, I'm going to go. And I'm going to leave everything just to get that.
Can we know yung specific na steak place?
Where
And
can
kung
we get
ano
it?
yung in-order mo? Oo. Or
The
secret place?
It's at the Manor.
The Manor.
So they have a really good steak.
Oo.
Yeah.
O ngayon, alam na natin.
Alam na natin.
Nagbabagyo pa
Pupunta
naman
na tayo
tayo.
dun. Oo.
Baka ma-out of stock pagdating ni Doc.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doc Bry, for this beautiful conversation. I really enjoyed it and personally learned a lot from your
Thank you.
stories, lessons. Dami. Ang dami. Parang mamayang dinner, dami natin pag-uusapan.
Oo.
Pag-upo. Okay, so before we wrap up, how and where can the audience find your work or how they can connect with you or the foundation and your projects?
So like say for example on social media, they could go to facebook.com/docbry.com. Bry there is BRY. And then that would actually be my Doc Bry's Inspirations page. And they could actually send a message through that.
And then for the Ben Tan Foundation, if they want to help, be
Yes.
it in monetary form or their time,
So the website is thebentan.com. So that's the website. And then there's a lot of things that they could actually find on the website. And it would be an easy opportunity for them to help. They could actually also go to facebook.com/thebentan. And that would be the Facebook page where we have all of the updates on that page.
Ayan, that is it.
okay, that's
you
it
so
for
much, Doc.
today's episode. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We love hearing from you. Let us know what story you enjoyed in today's conversation.
What lessons have you learned? Send us a message on our Facebook page at Good Mornings with Nicole and Prax.
Thank you for listening and see you again on the next episode.